My accountant is calling me. Sorry, I'm podcasting. Yeah, I'll just ignore that.
Wow.
Yeah. Be like,
What is
I'm
it,
trying
tax
to make
season?
money to pay you.
Dude, don't even remind me. I'm dragging my feet so much because I just don't want to be fucking bothered with it.
What's new? Every year, right?
I know. I can't leave it until April 15th. I will not. I got out of this habit in the last couple of years. I filed much earlier, and I will not. This is my vow here, behind the scenes, before we go live.
Oh, behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't want to make a commitment on air. That's
Why not?
Scary. I will file my taxes before April 1st, and that is not an April Fool's joke. I will do it.
And that's a promise.
I think that's how today's episode should begin.
Well,
she said
I guess
it was too scary.
It is too scary.
Yeah, but what's really going to hold you accountable? A wider audience or our patron
The
audience?
6 people in the Discord who were going to ask her before April 1st if she's filed.
And also, like, the two of you, duh.
Oh, well, Trump is like gutting the IRS. At least that's his plan. So I seriously wonder if we even have to file taxes anymore. Like, who's going to come and hold us accountable if we don't? They're going to be overwhelmed.
You know, somehow when you owe the government money, they always seem to find a way to hold you to that.
Well, but we're not rich people. They don't pay attention to us poors and, lower and middle class Americans.
I see. So you think we fly under the radar here?
I think so. It might be worth a shot for some people. I'm not taking that risk, but I'm just saying, if they're understaffed, how are they going to come and get you and look into you?
Fair enough. Well, I guess we can go ahead and get into our first 100 days.
I would
Was
like
that our cold open?
I say that's the opening of today's show.
Perfect.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome back, Laura.
For legal purposes, we don't endorse anything Andrew just said.
That is very true. This is not financial advice or tax advice or really any
or good advice. It's bad advice.
Don't listen to us. We are not professionals.
It's a good theme for the rest of the episode, too. Just consider all of this bad advice.
I have been audited, and I will tell you, it sucks, and I would never not file taxes again. I'm just saying that if nobody's at the IRS, who is going to audit you? So anyway, what else is happening, Laura?
Well, speaking of bad ideas, let's talk about tariffs. So I'm sure y'all touched on this last week. At the beginning of last week was when these 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico were supposed to go into effect, and they did, except just kidding. On Thursday, there was an abrupt about face in which Trump announced that about half of Mexican goods and about a third of the Canadian goods won't actually start getting tariff for another month. So I guess there's another 30-day slow roll for these particular products. If y'all will remember, these tariffs were supposed to kick in February, and he kicked the can down the road for 30 days saying, we made a deal, and now we've ripped the Band-Aid off on the tariffs, but then we're like, oh, just kidding, not on everything, just on some things, and then we'll do the rest of it in 30 days. And it's been chaotic. The Premier of Ontario in Canada threatened to impose a 25% tariff on electricity exported to the US from Ontario. Trump clapped back, threatening an additional 25% steel and aluminum tariff, which would be on top of the existing 25% tariff that's already gone into effect. And both parties did back off of this prior to recording. So it seems like there was a conversation. Sounds like the Premier of Ontario is going to Washington next week for a meeting. So I guess they reached kind of a stalemate.
Well, yeah. And by tomorrow morning, all this information will be outdated again. This is how it's been. It's just been out of control. Pam and I touched on the tariffs last week as well. Mm-hmm. Best Buy and Target were two companies saying, yeah, prices are going to be going up really quick because of these tariffs. So Trump backed off some of them. But yeah, it's just been back and forth for the last couple of weeks. And Trump's argument has been, well, you won't have to worry about tariffs if you're building your products here in America. But how are businesses supposed to feel comfortable about moving their companies, their production lines, etc., into America when Trump is so unpredictable like this? Well, and that type of thing takes time to do.
Mm-hmm. The reality is, too, is that America is not a plethora of raw materials. There are certain things that we just don't grow or produce or have access to here, like coffee, for example. The climate is just not equipped. Yeah, exactly. And so there's no way that, like, even if you were able to completely move your offshore businesses to America, first of all, like, the labor cost alone would be way more expensive, and that would make the price of goods go up. But assuming that, like, no production cost goes up at all, right? You would still have to, depending on what business you're in, you would still have to pay to import the materials that you need that just are not found in America.
Yeah.
Well, see, Pam, that's why we should invade Greenland.
Oh, right.
So we can have their rare minerals, and we should continue strong arming Zelensky and Ukraine so we can take their rare minerals. See, in the US, we have what it
divide and conquer.
Yeah, like, we're going to take it no matter what. That's kind of our national motto, it seems.
It's like a toxic boyfriend.
Hey, there are some comparisons that could be made there, but with all of this in mind, the stock market has obviously tumbled over the last week or so. I know at least one of us on this panel was probably watching this very closely.
I've stopped looking. I can't take it anymore. I'm ready to delete the Fidelity app on my phone. I can't even be tempted to look. I do look at that stock market app, just the generic one, just to see where the market is. But I can't look at my own portfolio. It's too depressing.
Yeah. Well, this is from Reuters, and this is from today. President Donald Trump's tariffs have spooked investors with fears of an economic downturn, driving a stock market sell-off that has wiped out $4 trillion from the S&P 500's peak last month, when Wall Street was cheering much of Trump's agenda. So, my, what a difference a few weeks makes. Because remember, when Trump first came back in, stock market got a little excited, right? But those gains have since been diminished and then some.
Yeah.
Because of all this tariff bullshit.
My favorite meme going around right now is one of those photoshopped images of JD Vance, where he looks like a pudgy kid. I'm sure you guys have seen some of these different faces that people have been putting on JD Vance. But he's in front of visuals of a crashing stock market, and he's going, "Have you said thank you yet?"
Oh my
Which is
goodness.
from his moment with Zelensky in the Oval Office.
Yep.
So good. I did see that after the big stock market crash the other day, the tech bros at Donald Trump's inauguration ended up losing $246 billion. So maybe that brings some people a little bit of comfort knowing that they are getting hit hard by this.
Yeah. Didn't
Elon
Elon
all ready
spend...
to kiss the ring?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't Elon spend more than that collective amount to get Trump elected?
I thought he spent 300 million, not billion.
Oh yeah, I guess you're. Listen, from down here.
Yeah.
What's
the difference at that
between
point?
million and bill? Yeah, there is no difference.
No, fair enough.
For those of us in the middle class down here, we're just like millionaire, billionaire.
You hear that, IRS? We don't know the difference.
And it's not just in the US where we're feeling these impacts. European stocks also slumped as the anxiety around Trump's tariffs spread to global markets. The Pan-European stocks, it's STOXX Europe 600 index fell 1.7%. Germany's DAX and France's CAC indexes were each 1.3% lower the other day. And London's FTSE 100 was down 1.2%. So unfortunately, when we do things in the United States, they have impacts on the rest of the world. And this is just another example of how these economic insecurities are bleeding over beyond the continental United States. So it's getting rough out here. And
America.
Doesn't it feel so good to win? I love winning. Speaking of just before we started recording, this news broke. The U.S. Department of Education is set to begin, quote, sweeping layoffs this evening, as we are recording this episode, following Trump's executive order directing Secretary of Education Linda McMahon to close the department. The department currently employs 4,400 people. And as if this isn't shitty enough, I want y'all to hear about this sketchy ass shit. So earlier today, the department told employees that its offices would be closed Tuesday evening and Wednesday for unspecified security reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted them all out of there before they started releasing this news that they're about to lay off 2,200 people.
Yeah. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, a former WWE
She was the
CEO.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's the other thing. Like, talk about, I mean, I got to hand it to her. You got to talk about a career shift. She went from being the CEO of the WWE, who pretty much they trotted out in front of the camera to allow her family to humiliate her over and over in the various WWE sketches that they do as part of the overall overarching wrestling storyline that goes in there. They would repeatedly haul her out and have her kids slap her in the face.
Oh my God.
In front of cameras. And now this woman is the Secretary of Education.
So if she's dismantling the department, does that mean she's going to be leaving? Or is she going to now just keep an eye on the former offices of the Department of Education? What happens there? Is she turning it into a new wrestling venue?
Can you imagine?
That would be, Trump would love that.
Oh my God. Oh no, I don't even want to go down that road because there's just too many Hunger Games-esque outcomes there.
Yeah.
No.
Right. It's like Duel to see who gets their student loans completely forgiven.
Fight to the death for student loan forgiveness.
That'd be fun.
Oh no.
But Trump did say that he told her he wants her to put herself out of a job.
Oh, okay.
That's madness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And this has implications for education in this country from start to finish, K through 12, public schools, colleges and universities, individualized educational plans for students who have learning disabilities, curriculum standards, national standards for, what sort of the US needs in order to compete on a global stage. There are just many, many problems with gutting the Department of Education in this way. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's perfect. And obviously, public education in this country has its challenges, and it is also not perfect. But we're literally looking at a situation where the administration is just saying we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and assume that nothing here is worthwhile or salvageable. And because we want to assume that some of this is waste, it must all be waste. So we're just going to toss it out. That's basically what we're getting. And it's scary. I have to imagine, especially if you're a parent, with kids in public schools in this country, I can't imagine what that feels like.
Yeah. I mean, I think about, where I grew up and my family and I talk about this a lot. We're lucky that we grew up in a very affluent community. And so the parents really pitch in and make up for what the state and the government does not give them based on standardized testing scores. But there are so many communities that don't have that luxury. And even if you think back to how, in the days of No Child Left Behind, how so many schools were closed down as a result of not having proper funding, and how many children in those communities that couldn't be bussed over to not bussed over, but couldn't be brought over to other communities or more affluent places to get the proper education. It's a recipe for disaster when you start removing funding or you don't have a department that at least regulates that in some way, to your point. It might not be perfect, but at least it's there to help in some semblance of the word.
Yeah. I mean, the long game here is they just want to privatize everything. They want to privatize education. They want to privatize healthcare,
charter schools and things like that. And
right. And then it turns into a scenario where you're no longer afforded the public right and the public guarantee of an education by virtue of living in this country.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be rich enough to afford the privilege of education. Like, is that where we're going to be tomorrow or even 5 years from now? No, but the eventual goal that is being worked towards with all of these very rash cuts to the federal government is to try and privatize as much as they can.
Right. The trickle down effect you'll start to see, even if it only lasts 4 years, right, through this administration.
Right.
You'll see children that are young enough to have to go through public primary school within the Trump reign, right, suffer, especially if they're in underfunded communities.
Totally. Well, and we still see the effects of COVID and the lockdowns today, 5 years later. So you're totally right, Pam. Like, you may not feel it today, you may not feel it tomorrow, but 5 years from now, you definitely will. And finally, because we can't stop winning, the U.S. was added to a global human rights watch list over our declining civil liberties. So this tool called Civic Us says the move comes amid President Donald Trump's assault on democratic norms and global cooperation. I thought it was very telling that we ended up on this list at this point, because honestly, it feels like we could have been here a bit sooner, just based on some of the rhetoric that was floating around even last year. But again, this is just another symptom of the times that we're living in. And I think we're in good company on this list, because other countries that are on the watch list with us include the Democratic Republic of Congo, Italy, Pakistan, and Serbia. So,
America.
Fuck yeah.
I think going forward with this segment, after every story, I'm just going to dramatically sing America.
Well, you gotta
We
start.
really
You gotta
are the
start
best
singing
country.
that song.
We really are number one.
And I'm proud to be an American.
Or at least I used to be free.
Or at least I think I'm free.
At least I think I'm free. All right. Well, Godspeed until next week. And for the rest of today's episode, we are going to be reading and discussing some great listener feedback that we've received. And we also have a bunch of confessionals. So we'll get to it all after a quick break. We'll be right back. So let's open up the listener mailbag. Thanks to everybody who writes in. We really appreciate when you reach out, and it's always great reading all of your feedback. We're going to start with this email from Alex. Hi, all. I find your conversations about Laura's gas station saga and other development/HOA conversations hilarious. I work in land use for a municipality in Massachusetts, and it's so interesting to hear how similar your feedback about projects is to the residents I work with every day, even though you're all in different areas of the country. I would love to have a convo about this if you're ever up for it. Love the show. Y'all are my favorite part of my internet week. Best, Alex.
Aw, thanks, Alex.
That's
I would
sweet.
honestly love that. I think that urban planning and stuff like that is so fascinating.
Okay, I must confess, I wanted to put this email in first to get it out of the way because I thought it was the most boring subject for us to discuss
really?
today.
I actually think it is but I mean, I just think it's good to know why things happen the way they do.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like what ends up going up in your neighborhood or in your county or in your city.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe that's just me. I took like one urban planning class in college and I was like, wow, like the city makes so much more sense now. Like I get it.
Okay, maybe I'm being ignorant here. I used to love playing Sim City. I used to like building cities, so maybe this would be interesting to me. I just really love how Alex really loved it because it's in their world of what they do.
Right.
So I thought that was great.
Well, it is fascinating that it's like we have like this little microcosm within the three of us, right? Even though we're in different regions.
Yeah.
But the fact that like our opinions mirror other communities. That's really interesting.
This is real talk, Pam. Pretend adulting, real talk that applies to everybody's lives.
Well, our next email is from someone who requested to remain anonymous, so we will keep you anonymous. They say, I'm a research scientist and develop cancer trials at an R1 research university. I'm not a federal employee, but these human health and services / National Institute of Health cuts are also having a huge impact on state universities, since we are the people who actually do most of the research studies that are done with the NIH funds. There isn't a lot the scientific community can do about these executive orders right now besides sue, which my university is doing, cry / stress eat, which I've definitely been doing, and try to educate the public about the importance of medical research, how it works, what role the NIH and drug companies play, and how it impacts their everyday lives. Spoiler alert, NIH funding has contributed to every breakthrough cancer treatment since the 50s, including oral and IV drugs, immune therapies, and biologics owned by big companies like BMS and Merck. They pursue very few patents and own fewer drugs, so the $40,000 a month cancer meds are purely the fault of the drug companies, not the NIH. In fact, a big focus of NIH studies has been trying to find new indications for older, cheaper, generic drugs. If you have any interest in discussing this topic on one of your episodes, please feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to supply some information and talking points. If not, that's totally okay. Either way, I appreciate that you highlighted how poorly DOJ is treating federal workers on your last episode. Thank you so much for this. And yeah, I think honestly, a lot of people in this country who receive any kind of healthcare can relate to what you're sharing here about like the $40,000 a month cancer medications. I think we can all speak to a time where we've seen what the actual cost of our medication would be out of pocket if we didn't have insurance to pay for it. It's insane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like just in terms of an anecdote from my real life, I really took for granted how amazing my health care was when I was still able to qualify under my parents' health care. And this is like one of the few times that being a child of divorce comes in really handy, because you can actually like double your health care.
Oh.
So not only were my brother and I covered under my mom, we were also covered under my dad and my stepmom. My stepmom happens to be a nurse, and so she gets incredible healthcare. Most of the time, never had to pay out of pocket for anything medically. And the highest I ever saw my copay was $5.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I didn't realize how good I had it until all of that went away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going through something similar right now that I think maybe Pam, I shared with you and our bays on a recent hangout that we did on Patreon. I recently had to switch therapists and psychiatrists because my healthcare, Aetna, was no longer covering the platform I was working through for my therapist and my psychiatrist. So I switched to another one that I heard good things about, and it has been really great so far. However, Aetna is getting very confused about the billing with this new platform, even though they say they cover it. And I was looking down the barrel at a $700 bill for a 20-minute psychiatrist appointment and a $300 bill for a therapy session. And I called Aetna, and luckily they have really good customer support, and they're going to refile the claim. And so I'm not going to have to pay out of pocket for this, allegedly. But then they're like, oh yeah, so now that it has to go back through the claims department, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks until you get the updated claim and updated bill. I'm like, great. So now I have this like $2,000 bill hanging over my head for 4 to 6 weeks. If you guys decide to grant me the privilege of low copays, I just like, it's so frustrating and so demoralizing that we have to go through crap like this.
Yeah, it's wild how much changes depending on how the verbiage is coded in terms of like the medical language or whatever. Like, yeah, you could go from having, like you said, a $2,000 bill hanging over your head to like owing just, maybe a couple $100 at most.
Yeah, it better be like $100. I do not want to.
Right.
I was paying like a $30 copay with my last therapist, which was great. Maybe even less than that. Actually, it may have been like $15. Beautiful. Love that for therapy sessions. But yeah. And then being on the phone with that, and they're like, oh, I have no idea why they ran it this way. I'm like, yeah, I don't either. So get it fixed because this sucks.
Yeah, sometimes it really does just come down to the luck of the draw and the interpretation of the person who processed it too. Because I've had that happen where, Pam, like you said, something just, I wouldn't necessarily say it was coded wrong because it wasn't like they coded it for something completely unrelated, but they didn't code according to the specific like reason for the test.
Right.
And because they picked the wrong reason, my insurance was like, sorry, we don't cover that test. And I was like,
Ooh.
the fuck you don't.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. It almost becomes like a full-time job, especially if you're someone who like frequently goes to the doctor. You kind of have to stay on top of it to make sure that you're not getting screwed over. You have to advocate for yourself. It's really time consuming.
Yeah, you have to really understand your own policy, basically, and what is covered and what isn't. So then you can just say, like, hey, I was under the impression that this would be covered under this based on what I'm reading. If that's the case, can you update that? And sometimes you get lucky and you get somebody that will work with you, and sometimes you don't. And the person doesn't want to go in and adjust the billing verbiage. So, yeah, it really sucks.
Also, just want to say, getting back to this email from Anonymous, I really appreciated this info about how NIH funding contributes to every breakthrough cancer treatment since the 50s. This is the type of information that really doesn't get the attention it probably needs when news comes out about the Trump administration defunding and firing people at the NHS and the NIH.
I'm also just like constantly in awe of like the people that listen to our show and that are a part of this community, and
oh my God,
how much more knowledge they have than the three of us do here.
It's so flattering.
Super humbling. Yeah.
It really is. Because I'm like, oh my God, you guys are so much smarter and more
like,
qualified than we are.
Dum-dums on the internet
because
every week.
Pam, you have a PhD in Taylor Swift, okay? We all have our strengths. We all draw information and energy from each other.
Precisely.
Well, this next email comes from Liza, who says, hey, y'all, your conversation recently about the price of tickets was really spot on. It's absolutely restricting what I'm able/willing to go see, and it's such a bummer. I found a new barrier recently. I've been waiting to see Cursed Child for years, but haven't made it out to New York City. I found out the touring production is coming to my city, but in order to purchase tickets, I would have to subscribe to the theater. I don't even know what that really means, but this is what the website says. Quote, tickets for this show are currently available as part of a 2025-2026 Bank of America Broadway on Hennepin season subscription package. I know the arts are struggling, but I have no interest in this season's other shows. So it's frustrating and prohibitive. I'm a public school elementary teacher, so I don't have lots of cash to throw around at venues, but I still want to get out and live life. These might be pre-sale tickets, Liza.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
SHNSF is what I go through out here in San Francisco, and they will sell pre-sale tickets, but only as part of this subscription package where you subscribe for the whole season of whatever they're bringing across all the theaters in the city. So I would wait closer to the date, and chances are you'll be able to find single date tickets for like the entire run.
I agree. And I bet they're using the popularity of Harry Potter to try to steer people towards buying the season ticket package /subscription. But yeah, extra seats will be available after they try to sell through these packages.
And you could also like check to see if your city does lottery systems. Like San Francisco does lottery for like every show, and you can get cheap tickets that way as well, as long as you're willing to go on the fly and you don't need to make too many plans in advance. It's usually just you win lottery for the same day, just like you would if you were in New York City. So,
but I will say it is also crappy for venues to try and get people to purchase these bigger packages. In the case of somebody like Liza, she's a public school teacher. She doesn't have the money to drop on that, but she's also a huge Harry Potter fan. So she wants that opportunity to go, and then she's getting what feels like priced out. And I'm sure Liza is not the only person who's looking at these types of pages and assuming that this is the only way to get a ticket. At least it is for the time being. And some of us like to plan ahead, so we want to get our tickets as early as possible. We're excited to go. All right, next email comes from Claudia. Hi, Andrew, Pam, and Laura. I just wanted to say a huge thank you. I listen to y'all religiously every week, Millennial since COVID and MuggleCast since 2019. I am a Millennial, born in 97, but born and raised in Venezuela. So my childhood was very similar to that of a Millennial person because we usually got all the tech and toys and pop culture a bit later than in the US. I also wanted to say thank you because your conversation about AI and ChatGPT recently helped me in my job as a teaching assistant. I am in the first year of my PhD program, and as a first year, I am expected to grade a history class. I recently caught a student using the word tapestry in their essay.
Oh.
I immediately recalled y'all's conversation and reported it to the professor. I honestly feel very bad for the student. However, I now know that I instantly became a better grader because of you. Honestly, I look forward to listening to you every week. You make my week better. Thanks again. Muchas gracias. So for anyone who doesn't remember, we were talking about how ChatGPT loves using the word tapestry when writing responses to people or writing things for people. And so professors started catching on to this and realizing that if they're seeing tapestry, it was probably written by ChatGPT. A rich tapestry, ChatGPT likes to say.
Yeah, especially for any kind of academic writing or like college admissions essays, I think was where they were seeing the use of that word the most. But yeah. I will say this is something I've been able to give a couple of teachers in my life this tip as well, to be like, yeah, if you ever suspect that you might be looking at a ChatGPT paper, see if it has the word tapestry in it. And a couple of them came back and were like, yeah, like it's a thing. So yeah, it's crazy. It's very ubiquitous.
I saw the other day on social media that the new one is M dashes. Like if you see a lot of M dash usage, it's probably ChatGPT. And I was thinking to myself, like, well, I'm fucked because I use M dashes all the time.
Yeah.
I
was going to say it's either ChatGPT or it's Pam because Pam's, yeah.
I'm going to have Andrew vouch for me. Be like, no, she's been a M dash user her whole life.
You kind of got me into using them too. I love using those in emails. Or like in our Discord chats with listeners.
It's a great punctuation.
As an aside, I would love to do another episode on ChatGPT or other AI tools. And nobody send in any information yet, please. But I would like to hear from listeners how they're using ChatGPT in their everyday lives. And I actually got this idea from a tech podcast to ask their audience how their listeners are using it. But I thought it'd be interesting for us to do it since we're not a tech-focused podcast. Like, how does a more general millennial audience use ChatGPT? I have to say I've been using it more and more. It's incredible. It really is incredible.
Oh, I can't tell you the number of times I've been researching something for the show and I've been struggling to find exactly what it was I was looking for. So I will go over to ChatGPT and ask the question and see what resources it can find for me. Or if I need a quick bullet list of something or topic ideas.
Yeah, or just a quick fact and you don't trust Siri anymore. Siri has gotten really bad. I was reading a novel recently and I said, hey, what are the ages of these characters in this book? Because I had forgotten or I had missed it. And it gave me a good answer. And then just for fun, I tried Siri with that same question too. Couldn't do it. It's just really, it can do whatever the hell you want. All right. Well, those are the emails for now. We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to get into some confessionals. So we'll be right back.
All right. First confessional. Last night, I had a dream about the 3 millennial hosts. Ooh, escándalo. No, it wasn't sexual. It took place at my late grandmother's house, which made no sense. But somehow Pam was my cousin. By this, I mean my dream brain somehow knew that Pam was my cousin, even though my waking brain knows that there's no way Pam and I are related. We were sitting at the dining table along with Laura, waiting for Andrew. I wanted to talk to them all about Onyx Storm, among other things. I think this person met Andrew, but they wrote Andrea.
But this person writes Andrea the next 3 times they use my name. So I'm very confused what's going on here. In the dream, was I Andrea or what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what happened here, Andrew, but Andrea just wasn't showing up. Eventually, Laura and Pam told me that it's just unlikely for Andrea to show up because he's flaky.
Okay, it's definitely Andrew. He's flaky.
3 times? Wait, me flaky? I'm not flaky.
No, I know that, but if the pronoun is he, it must be about you.
Yeah. They were probably typing this on an iPhone and got autocorrected.
Maybe
Siri
they have
started
an Andrea in their
hallucinating.
contacts too.
This prompted me to create a page for Andrea in the burn book. And now I'm just going to say this is a deep cut for all the mean girlies out there. So the page that this person put in the burn book for Andrea said, "This gay is the nastiest skank bitch I have ever met. Do not trust him. He is a fugly slut." They go on to say it was then shared far and wide. It was real and it made fetch happen. End of dream. Wow. I love how this started out as like, we were going to hang out and talk about Onyx Storm, but then it became Mean Girls.
Yeah. I'm glad you're dreaming about us, listener.
sweet.
Feel free to come forward with your real
flattering.
name anytime when this occurs. You don't have to hide behind the confessional. We support it. I just thought, obviously I would have corrected Andrea to Andrew if it happened once, but 3 times I thought we had to include that.
You left it for authenticity.
As written, yeah.
All right, next one reads, "Hey y'all, I have somewhat of a sad confessional today. I'm seriously considering breaking up with my partner. We will be together for a year in April, yet I find myself constantly frustrated with him. He started driving for Uber about 4 months into our relationship and I never see him. It's become a routine that I see him on Tuesday and Thursday nights after he works for a couple of hours at most because I go to sleep. Yesterday was Valentine's Day and I knew he was going to be working, and normally I don't care about the holiday, but I would have appreciated a little note or something. He did wish me a happy Valentine's Day in the morning since he had spent the night working Thursday night. I'm constantly asking if he can see me, and he has a boundary of only Tuesdays and Thursdays because he needs to work. I'm tired of asking. I really like him, and I express to him that I'm upset because I don't see him often, or I feel like I get to know him anymore. And he responds with, "I know," and doesn't seem willing to change. He's a great guy, and until recently, I really thought he was endgame, but now I just feel underappreciated and like I barely know him. I don't know if I'm overreacting and should just be more patient, but why can't he have a 9 to 5 again? LOL. I'm a very understanding person, so I'm at a loss at what to do.
I don't think you're overreacting. This person seems to be prioritizing his Uber work over you. Maybe if he conveyed, "I really need to be working these hours to continue paying the bills," that might be understandable. But it doesn't seem like he's making you a priority in your life. And from what I'm gathering from this email, it doesn't seem like you two live together. So at least there's that. You won't have to worry about the hell that is them or you moving out of your shared space. But yeah, it doesn't sound to me like this person is interested in your relationship and continuing the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be wondering about that if I were in this person's shoes. I will say they've been together for a year in April, so we're not quite to the 1 year mark in the relationship, and not saying that justifies any of the behavior here, but it does make me wonder if you're both on the same page about what it is you're wanting to get out of the relationship. Because if one person really wants to take things to the next level or like start planning a future together, which kind of like based on the tenor of this email, like I'm guessing that's what you're looking towards. He just might not be there yet. But if he's not there yet, then that could explain his attitude. It doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad person. It could just mean that you're not on the same page.
Yeah, I just have like more questions, I think, because like, is it like that he can work any days, but he's choosing to only see you Tuesdays and Thursdays? Or is it that he has a second job and he's supplementing income with Uber? You know what I mean? But I do think like a minor red flag would be that he didn't really care to do a little bit more for Valentine's Day, since, you know, first Valentine's Day can be important to couples, and the fact that he just kind of decided to check out that day, more or less, like that would be concerning to me as well. Especially since I'm sure you made it known that like that was important to you. So, yeah. It's I think I need a little bit more information, but I think that like that alone aligns with what you both are saying.
I would say we need to sit down and have a talk about this. And if we can't work something out, I unfortunately am probably going to have to end this relationship, because why should you be dragged along through this when they're not trying to prioritize you?
Yeah.
And if they're not willing to work with you to figure something out, then this doesn't seem worth it.
Right.
I mean, and this might sound like a stupid idea, but sometimes you get picked up in an Uber and their like partner or friend, the driver's partner or friend, is in the front seat with them. Why don't you just go along on a ride with them? Try that. See what happens. So funny.
But yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't hold like the whole like why can't somebody and with have a 9 to 5 again, because like, there are multiple reasons why people can't subscribe to that lifestyle, especially depending on like how old you all are. I mean, like that's again like not information that we have, but at the end of the day, like if that's something that's important to you in a relationship, if you want somebody that is more aligned with your schedule, then I think you've kind of answered your own question. You need to find somebody that fits into like what you've already built for yourself.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, this is what I need to get out of a relationship.
Yeah.
And if that's not something that you can commit to, that's okay. But then we should just go our separate ways.
Mm-hmm. All right. This next one. Hey, y'all, I just need some positivity and someone to tell me everything is going to be okay. I filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. I'm only 28. People, including my parents who filed before, told me that I'd feel so much relief after filing. I'm finding the opposite. My credit union wants 2 months' payments as a show of good faith. I've gotten 2 letters in the mail that there's civil suits against me. I'm stressed out of my mind trying to figure out how I'm going to pay these things, my attorney, rent, and normal bills. On top of that, my job switched payroll providers and my health insurance went up. I couldn't afford medicine, so I went a couple weeks without my antidepressants, anti-anxiety, and eczema meds. My panic attacks have returned after years. I just need someone to say I've got this because I really feel like I'm losing everything. Thanks. And I don't want to read this part this person wrote, embarrassed and ashamed.
I don't think you need to be embarrassed. I don't think you need to be ashamed.
Yeah.
A lot of people go through this, and I know it probably all feels really overwhelming right now, but my understanding is that through filing bankruptcy, it's really supposed to simplify your payment schedule so that you're not having to juggle making multiple payments to multiple parties. Like part of the settlement with your bankruptcy is that you pay towards your debts and that money is dispersed to your debtors. And I think if Chapter 7 bankruptcy works the way the rest of items reported on your credit works, it should fall off in 7 years. So I don't think that you need to be worried about like this haunting your credit or anything for decades or anything like that. I know it's still stressful and scary, but a lot of people have come before you in needing to file bankruptcy. And ultimately, I think a year from now, you'll probably look back on this moment and feel much better about it than you do now.
Yeah.
Including your parents. I think that, you should just, I mean, if you have it sounds like you have a good relationship enough for them to be telling you about their own journeys having gone through this. So I think that talking to them about how you're feeling anxious might really help you out a lot.
Yeah, you have a unique support system there since they know what you went through. And I would just add that I think all of us go through really, really difficult times in our lives. There was a time for me financially around 2015 or so where I've kind of spoken about this before. I was really screwing up the running of my business. I wasn't working with an accountant and I made a lot of mistakes. And when an accountant I consulted on told me how bad I'd screwed everything up, I was just basically devastated. I couldn't believe how bad things had gotten. And at the time, I went on to my Twitter account and I posted a tweet just to myself. It was like a private tweet that only I could see. And I just tweeted to myself. Oh, no, I posted it on Facebook, a post I could only see. And it just says, I typed out, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Because I was like panicking, but I was trying to like affirm that I could get through this. And I did. And I like to carry the motto that everything always works out. You're going to go through hard times, but you're always going to come out on the other end and you're going to come out better for it. And by filing for Chapter 7, you're going to come out better for it. It's going to take a while. It sucks to take that first big step. Often that's the hardest part, right? Just taking that first step to get things moving. And then you're going to go through a period of adjustment and working things out, but you will get through it. Everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, it will. And in the meantime, if you're still struggling to afford your medicines, I would definitely check with your pharmacy to see if they can offer you any discounts or coupons. They can usually help you find coupons available through GoodRx. And also, I would recommend Cost Plus Drugs.
Yes.
Because that's another place where you can get generic versions of things like antidepressants and eczema meds for sure.
That's where I get my Lexapro.
Yep. And how much do you pay for it, if you don't mind my asking?
$7.50 for a 90-day supply, not including shipping, which is $5. So yeah, it's
crazy.
Good. Yeah.
All right. Well, keeping it moving. Our next confessional says, "Ahoy, folks." Looks like they took a lead from MuggleCast. We were having people write in with "Ahoy, y'all" over there. So they go on to say, "I thought I'd chime in response to a confessional that was submitted a couple of months ago, maybe more. What is time?" I feel you. The person was saying how they feel guilty for being well off financially. A lot of what they said resonated with me. This probably sounds like humble bragging, but I own a house, am currently building a pool, have a 6-figure job, etc. Most of my friends are barely making ends meet or working 2 jobs, and I feel like I can't even talk about my life without sounding superior in some way. My husband wanted to leave the last time we were visiting with friends because all of the comments they were making were around the lines of, "Wow, must be nice living a life of luxury." I didn't feel that way because I love these people, but I worked hard and honestly, I got lucky. Scholarships, high grades, and working multiple jobs through college got me out of college debt free. My parents didn't help me at all. I sought a career that I knew was in demand, and I happened to land a job before I had even graduated where the owner is very kind and loved me, my work ethic, and personality. Do I think I deserve what I have now? Not really. But my point is that it's not my fault that I'm more fortunate. It's just one of those weird things. It feels incredibly selfish to even talk about my life when everyone else is struggling, but hey, at least they're all invited to my pool party.
So first of all, I must apologize for the financial whiplash I probably just gave people by
I know
structuring these emails back to back.
Jesus.
I honestly didn't think about that. I was just going in order in which they came in. So my bad. So I think it's good that you're aware of how you could potentially come off to people. I've said before, I'll say it again. I think one of the most important traits somebody can have is to simply be aware of how they come off when they present themselves. I'm going to be sharing a story or two in After Dark today, and we're going to talk about red flags that we've seen in people. Somebody who's just incredibly unself-aware and just a know-it-all, they just rub you the wrong way. It's a bad look. It always shocks me when people don't hear themselves. So at least you hear yourself.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, and I think I said this when we read that last confessional too. I think a lot of this is just self-awareness. Like you said, Andrew, like knowing how to read a room. I've definitely been on the other side of this equation where like I was the friend who was broke that had a friend who was doing really well for themselves, and I was really happy for them. But it can sometimes get a little annoying when you're the friend who's broke, listening to the friend complain about like the construction of their swimming pool. Because as the broke friend, you're like, cool, I can barely afford groceries right now.
Cool.
So,
will it have fountains and color changing lights and a TV outside so we can watch TV while swimming?
But yeah, honestly, I think it's the self-awareness. It's not, you don't need to feel guilty about what you have. I mean, it kind of sounds like the way you've written this, it's very clear that you're open and like you want to share that with your friends, which is great. So I say just do that, but don't spend so much of your conversations with your friends focusing on the material items that you're afforded because of your lifestyle.
Yeah, the home expansion updates. Why not just talk about, hey, rich confessional writer, what's new? Oh, I just finished signing the contract on my pool. So instead of saying that, say, oh, I just watched the new season of The Traitors. I can't believe how good it was. Just talk about things that everyday people can relate to instead of the rich parts of your life.
Yeah, or you could just like make a joke out of it and be like, "Oh, first world problem, haha."
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I get that we're all reaching an age where it's like, yeah, this is the stuff that's on the forefront of our mind. It's like it's the same as anybody trying to upkeep a household or any kind of like living dwelling. But I think Laura's right. It is all about how you frame it and just kind of being aware of the fact that other people are not in your same situation and like therefore can't relate. Like it's like you can't really like beg people or ask people to relate to you if you know that they're not in a similar living situation, just like how you can't relate to them and like their living situation if they're stuck in like a studio apartment with noisy neighbors, for example. I don't know.
Yeah. And I don't think that you have to hide any of these things about yourself. Like you should totally invite your friends over to use the pool when it's done. Like when the pool's done, reach out to your friends and say, hey y'all, the pool's finished. I want to have a pool party. I want to have everybody over for a day of fun. I want to treat you guys. Like that would be the approach that I would take if I were in your shoes.
Yeah. And as the person who doesn't have the pool, I think I would be flattered to be invited. One of my neighbors has a pool. I'm never building a pool. I don't got the money for that. I'm flattered when they invite us over. Or sometimes they say, here's another way here's how you win your friends over. Okay. So this person, they've got a lot of money. I bet they go on cruises and glorious vacations. They're out of town. Next time after the pool's done, you're out of town. You invite your other friends to use your pool while you're gone. And then they appreciate this free pool access that you're affording them. This is what my neighbors do. because they look at me and Pat in our house and they're like, oh, these poor people. They can't.
Oh my God.
No, but they
do not.
No, okay.
Your
they don't
stock
look
tank pool is not holding up.
We have a place that animals drink water from is our way to stay cool. They have an in-ground pool, freaking television out there, a jacuzzi. In all seriousness, when they're out of town, they do say, feel free to come over and use the pool. And we appreciate that.
Oh,
so that's how you win your friends
yeah.
over. Give them some of the perks of your life of luxury.
Yeah.
And I will say too, like, I'm sure if they're really your friends, they understand that you work hard for what you have.
Totally.
And that it wasn't handed to you. I think like all genuine friends understand that, even if they give you a hard time. But I could see how your significant other might not understand that if they haven't been around these people the whole time. But it sounds like these people have been in your life for a while. And so I'm sure they saw you work hard for everything that you've accomplished.
Agreed.
All right, next up, this email reads, I want to send a huge thank you to Pam for recommending the Just Run app a couple of weeks ago. I was just getting back into working out and was looking for an app to help me run, and this app has been a fantastic help. I'm so glad that's helping you out. I'm still a big fan.
Nice. And we'll have a new round of recommendations in a couple of minutes. But first, listeners, that concludes today's Mailbag episode. Thanks so much for writing in. And if you're able to help us out financially, we would really support it because we are an independent podcast. We're just Pam, Andrew, and Laura. So your support goes a long way.
And you can become our favorite pal over at patreon.com/millennial. Once you support us, you'll be able to listen to our weekly gossip sessions known as After Dark, aka our podcasting safe space, directly within your podcast app.
Coming up in After Dark this week, I teased it a little bit earlier. We're going to discuss what we think could be perceived as our own red flags. What are the problems with us? And then we are also going to share some of the worst red flags that we've heard about amongst our friends in recent years.
You can also hang out with us on Zoom if you're a bae on our monthly hangouts. You can get ad-free episodes of Millennial, hear old episodes of Smart Mouths, and listen to recordings of us calling each other monthly for our roll call segment, and much more. Patreon offers a 7-day free trial and annual subscription discounts as well.
If you're an Apple Podcast user, you can get Just After Dark and ad-free episodes by tapping into the show through the Apple Podcast app and signing up for Mega Millennial. And now it's time for recommendations. Pam, drop another good one on us.
I want to echo Andrew's recommendation from last week and recommend Mayhem by Lady Gaga. Now that it's officially out and we've actually listened to it, I feel like this is a no-skip album. It's really solid.
It is. What do you think is your favorite song?
I really liked How Bad Do You Want Me, but also I'm a sucker for like 80s pop. It's not because of the Taylor Swift thing. I actually
That's why I'm laughing.
I actually really liked the what is it, the Yazoo Only You interpolation.
Okay. That went over my head, but okay.
I'm sure if you look up the song, you'll be like, oh, I have heard this song before. And then you'll hear it in that track.
Okay.
But that makes a lot of sense because I'm pretty sure that Taylor Swift was heavily inspired by that song specifically when she was creating 1989. And that song really does like harken back to that. But it's just like 80s synth pop, really. And I've always been a fan of 80s synth pop. But like the whole album is really good. Like I said, it's really easy to just like have on in the background. I don't feel the need to skip anything. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool to just kind of see Gaga just like going back to making an album that's like, you know, hit after hit. I can't wait to see what else she drops as a single because she really only dropped 2 singles before the album is out. So it'll be fun to see what she picks for the next one.
Well, she did also perform Killa on SNL, which was pretty groovy. And so I assume that'll be an upcoming single. But my favorite song, I think, after Disease and Abracadabra, if not my favorite song right now, is Perfect Celebrity. It feels to me like a follow-up to Paparazzi, but it's got a dark twist. There's even like a Princess Diana reference in there. It's just basically about the pressures of being the perfect celebrity. And the chorus goes, "You love to hate me, I'm a perfect celebrity," which I think for anybody who has spent any amount of time in the public spotlight online will understand that a lot.
I also really like Zombie Boy.
Yeah.
I just think that she really played around with so many sounds here. That really kind of felt like almost like a little bit more like 70s glam rock to me.
Yeah.
And it was just it's just, the album is so, so good. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you definitely should, especially if you're a fan of pre-art pop Lady Gaga. This is really like Lady Gaga in her prime. And you can really tell that she took her time with this and she crafted something that it probably is going to withstand the test of time.
So, Laura, I think a year ago you recommended on this show Too Good To Go, the app. So I downloaded this after you recommended it, and I actually kind of want to re-recommend it just to let our listeners and you know that there are some good places on this app. For anyone who doesn't remember, basically, local businesses near you can post their leftovers through this app daily, and you can go in and grab these leftovers at a fraction of the price they would normally sell them in store. And there are great pizza places, a fantastic bagel place in town that sells a dozen bagels for $6 a day old. Ooh, who cares? Through Too Good To Go. I've just gotten a lot of great deals through here. So if you're looking to save a buck on maybe some of your favorite restaurants in town, check out Too Good To Go, TOO Good To Go, and pick up some stuff.
I've been using this a lot recently too. There's an Indian food restaurant near me that does a lunch buffet, and after 2 p.m. they'll do just this stacked plate of lunch buffet leftovers, vegetarian and non-vegetarian, for $5.
Love that.
Such a good deal.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And you're also
so you get a nice hot lunch plus leftovers, probably, if you're not super hungry.
Yeah. And of course, the other benefit here is not only are you saving yourself money, but you're also helping reduce food waste, because these businesses, instead of throwing this food away, they're instead selling it to you at a reduced price.
Right. Yeah, I'm a fan for sure. You can get a lot of really good, I found in my area, baked goods and produce being really good grab bag items, because places will sell, at least around here, they'll guarantee you, you pay $10 for a bag of produce, but we guarantee that it's worth at least 12. That's what a lot of the stands around here have been doing. It's really, really nice. I want to recommend a show. It's an animated show called Common Side Effects, and it is on Adult Swim, but you can stream it on Max. It is really, really good. It is a simultaneously very funny, but very sad and also very charming show about the pharmaceutical industry and alphabet agencies in the United States, and how the search for a drug that could be sort of all-encompassing with its ability to heal people very easily gets really, really complicated when you have the mixture of government and business interests. It is a really, really good show, and I know the way I described it makes it sound like something out of the West Wing, but I promise it's not. It's really, really good. There are some truly heartfelt moments. There are some laugh out loud moments. And there are some moments where you'll be like, oh yeah, this feels kind of like a documentary.
All right, pals, time for a couple reminders before we wrap up. Please do visit shop.millennialshow.com to pick up official Millennial swag. Also, follow the show in your favorite podcast app or on YouTube, and leave us a review.
You can leave comments wherever you follow us, or email millennialshow@gmail.com. Millennialshow.com is where you can find links to our various platforms and notes on what we've discussed today.
After Dark starts in a moment for patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. Thanks, everybody, for listening. You know what? I'm Andrea.
I don't think there's a masculinized version of Laura. Oh, Snail Song is calling out that it would be Lawrence if I was to gender swap
Ooh.
my name, Lawrence. I like that.
Like, that's very regal.
Pam, what would be your gender swapped name? Pat,
Sure.
Kamel,
Paula.
Paul. Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.